to Founder. We've been in a little bit of a hiatus, but I am so excited to be kicking off our Founder series 2023 with Courtney.
Am I the first?
You are the first of this year.
Awesome.
I was super excited to be doing this with you. I met Courtney at the Women in Business Retreat last year.
Right.
I heard her speak on a panel talking about entrepreneurship and taking those passions to your full time. And she was like, if you have questions, buy me a coffee, buy me a drink, and I'll spend time with you. And
I did say that.
Yeah.
You have to buy me a coffee. Yeah. You don't have to buy me a coffee, but it's nice.
I wanted to buy you a coffee. And yeah, I got to spend some time with her post event, and she has kind of become a mentor for me and a friend and someone I look up to a lot. So
that's so kind.
Thank you for spending time with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it's good to see you.
Do you mind introducing yourself and all of the many incredible things that you do, and we'll dive into them?
Yes. So I'm Courtney Zaugg, founder and president of Plaka Associates. It's an economic development and innovation consulting company based here in Indianapolis, and it's 4 years old. As of April 1st, it's 4 years old.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you. I also co-own a couple different small companies with my husband. We have a general contracting company and a property management company. I also am an ambassador for a Veteran and Military Spouse Entrepreneurship Initiative. It's called Bunker Labs. The exciting thing, which I know we might talk about later, but one of the exciting things is that we'll be launching a local program here in the fall specific to Indiana, and that's just a really important passion project of mine. I also am an ambassador for Right to Start. It's a national advocacy organization that supports policy for state and local elected officials, and the whole purpose is to provide a platform and tools to support entrepreneurs. So that's also a new initiative, and trying to grow that here in Indiana too.
That's amazing. I didn't realize the last one, so that's super cool.
Oh yeah, I'm loving it.
I love that. So on the panel, you were talking a bit about this, and so was a couple of the other panelists about having a partner in business and in life and the support. I mean, you and your husband are both entrepreneurs. Did you know that when you first started dating, when you got married, or was that something that kind of came as you were growing together?
Yes, no, that was not the plan at all. Not one bit. In fact, I grew up in a family of food entrepreneurs. My parents had restaurants. And the lineage actually was when my great-grandparents came from Greece, they had a food cart that grew into a wholesale food and catering business.
Cool.
That grew into a restaurant business. And when I actually was about my daughter's age, the restaurants failed. And so I grew up, yes, with entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs that had frankly a painful experience, and so that was never an option on the table, in discussions of what do you want to be when you grow up. So no, it wasn't an option. But my husband is a Marine Corps veteran, and we met right after he got out, and he was using his GI Bill to go to school, and both of our career paths at that time were not conducive to being in the same location at the same time. My background's in international economic development, and so I was applying for jobs, frankly, in war zones. He had done that and didn't really want to go back, and so his career path was in federal law enforcement, which would have taken him anywhere except Indiana.
Right.
And so we spun our wheels and tried to, build a new dream together, and that was being a business owner. So in 2017, he started a construction company. Our daughter was 6 months old, and that was an intentional decision, but he was happy. He was very, very happy building that, and it was amazing, that experience, to see frankly how challenging starting any business is, right? So it's construction, it's not I've said this before with other people, it's not curing cancer. It shouldn't be this hard, and it definitely shouldn't be this hard for veterans. And it was incredibly difficult. We didn't know what we were doing. He had the technical skills, not the business skills. And so, one thought, okay, this should be a lot easier for us. And number two was about economic development. I had been consulting across the country at that point for several years and meeting with elected officials and economic developers who said, oh yes, entrepreneurship is definitely a part of our economic development strategy, and that was definitely not the case. You know, what that meant to them was we have an SBDC rep, or we have, entrepreneurship 101 at the community college. It wasn't a strategy that was really focused on and invested in.
Right.
And so I knew after we launched the construction business, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go do my thing in a little bit, you know. And so a couple years later, I started Plaka.
That's amazing. And so I love that, because you have taken that and you do it in so many different ways, not only through Plaka, but through the way that you champion ambassador with the different organizations you're a part of. I think it's amazing, because I feel like there are a lot of people who have these passions and the technical skills and the knowledge to back it, but they don't quite have all the business admin, and it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's so much. Even the 101, like, yes, and you need more.
Right.
I think back to like my business classes even, and like to start a business, like there's entrepreneurial like certificates, or like there's just so much. And I think about it coming out of tax season now, because we're going into like our third year, which is exciting.
Yes.
But also I'm like, oh, our books look a lot different than they did
Right.
2 years ago, and like I need to make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. So what has that been like? And I feel like you are in the position where you are leading a business, helping other business owners, but you're also championing with other organizations. So what does that balance look like for you? That's a lot of
It is.
work.
It is a lot of work, and I do wear a lot of hats. I think, but you're right, there's a common thread. And for me, sometimes it just feels like it doesn't, I just have to. Because as a part of the work, yes, I need to build a business and need to pay bills, right? But that the whole point is to pave a path and make it easier for people that come after us. And the other ecosystem and all of this infrastructure needs to happen as well. And so it has to happen at the same time. You know, can I do that, and can people do that forever? No. And certainly I've worn a lot of hats, so especially the last, I would say, 2 years that have been, it's been a lot. But that's okay. And I'm not going to wear those hats forever, but I feel compelled to do that right now.
Yeah. I feel like that's a big part of starting a business too, because when you start it, most often it's you and maybe like 1 or 2 other people, and so you have all these hats, and I think that's the overwhelming part of it. I remember our first year, like I was doing like all of our books and all of the shipping and like all of the curation, and so I look at this year and like I'm able to outsource a lot of our bookkeeping. We just signed on to someone who's doing it for us completely, and it's amazing.
Yes.
But it's also like you don't always see that big picture when you're in the weeds getting it started.
Right. It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, I always think about that, and that's why I love doing these interviews, because I get to talk with people who have had businesses or are part of businesses that are like through the weeds. And maybe I just selfishly do this. I always say that. I always selfishly do these interviews because I want to know where is the light at the end of the tunnel.
I think we all do, though.
Yeah?
Yes. And I don't care how, even the very seasoned, if you want to call it a successful executive, entrepreneurs, they had an exit, right? They will tell you they're still learning every day. It's just a process, and I think that's the differentiator. You can take these classes and you go through the workshops and go to school, and all of that is valuable, and you should do that. But you have to be obsessed with the journey, because it's all about the journey, and it's all about creating this life for yourself and for your family, and making money, and which is a good thing. And I think women there's something about women, from my perspective, that shy away from that, of like, oh, you want to be, in a position where you have wealth. Yes. Why? So I can give it away and invest it in things that are really important to support other women or support other veterans. But yeah, it's you have to be obsessed with the journey of it, not just the end goal.
Yeah, and I feel like that's always like a harder piece of it too, especially like growing up when everyone's asking like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What life do you want?
Yeah.
And it's like, to take time to recognize that like you should be enjoying the whole way there, and like to not wait. Andrew and we got this wine membership, and so I think we got like 12 bottles each order, and we would never drink them because we're like, it's just a Tuesday. Like, we have to wait for that special occasion or something to drink this.
Right.
And like, we ended up having like 2 orders where we didn't drink any wine, and we were like, this is so dumb.
You're hoarding wine.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes, especially being like a young professional getting started in my career, like a lot of us, we are like, we'll enjoy time when we've made it. When really we should be enjoying the whole ride.
Right.
And not waiting with 12 bottles of wine for like the right moment to drink it.
Certainly. I agree 100%.
It's just, I love that you said that, and I feel like I forget that a lot, so thank you for that reminder.
Oh, I forget it myself too, without a doubt, you know, and yeah, and I think there's also the journey is also about creating freedom, you know, so while wearing lots of hats and while things maybe are pretty busy, I still have, and to me, it's still a freedom because I am choosing that life, right? I'm not being told that this is what I need to be doing because I'm working for somebody else. But I choose to do these things, and I choose to work these many hours when I want to.
Right.
That's freedom to me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it means, you know, maybe a little less sleep at night sometimes. That's still freedom.
Yeah. No, I love that. So I want to know more about Bunker Labs and the project that's starting in Indiana. Do you mind if we dive into that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So Bunker Labs is a national organization, and they have certain chapters throughout the U.S., and I've been so lucky to have been able to be an ambassador for Bunker for Indiana. I believe that started in 2021, and I'll be rolling off as an ambassador after this cohort at the end of May. That organization has provided training for veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs, and it's very good. I've just taken, frankly, what they've done and said, that's great, I'm glad there's that resource, but there's an opportunity and a gap here in the local ecosystem that I want to fill. And so this fall we'll be doing a localized program in partnership with Next Studios. We'll have also an alumni group that will be meeting of the entrepreneurs that have gone through programming, and then they'll be offered some one-on-one programming or one-on-one coaching, and frankly like a capital continuum if they so choose to in order to get funding for their business.
That's incredible.
So yeah, I'm really excited, and I think back to when we started the construction company and just how lost we were, and while there were pieces to resources that we were able to access here, we met with BOI, that was great. We've met with SCORE before. There just needs to be more, and so I just want to fill that gap of what else can we do. Bunker Labs is a great resource, but what else can we do here locally to get folks faster to the next step in their business.
Right, and I think I love a lot of like national organizations because it is a great resource, but oftentimes not all cities or chapters have the same means to make those goals happen. And
True.
so I'm so excited to hear that there's something that is local, and
yeah,
that's awesome, that's incredible. And so Bunker Labs, I think, was the first cohort the one that was at the memorial?
It was the War Memorial, yes. The first cohort graduated in December of the War Memorial that you came to, and I'm so lucky and thankful for that.
Of course.
They set the bar really high. Frankly,
You set the bar really high too, with the way they were praising you and talking about how transformative of an experience it was. As an entrepreneur, to have somebody who believes in you and is like there for you as a resource, and then to go through it with others in the same boat. I think that is, we talk about the journey, and that's like such an irreplaceable, like that is bonding, and it's knowing that you are very much not the only one figuring a lot of it out, and you can lean on each other in that way.
It really is. That cohort model is really important, and I think especially in the military community, they already have, there's already that shared experience, and so it made the cohort and the pre-accelerator program just that much more impactful, I think. So yeah, I'm really excited for the fall, and we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up on that. Have you back?
Deal.
Perfect. Do you mind sharing more about the other ambassadorship that you mentioned as well?
Yeah, so Right to Start was started by a man named Victor Wong. Victor used to be an executive at the Kauffman Foundation, and he's also a tech executive. He's done many, many impactful things in his career, but it was 2020 when he launched Right to Start. So we all know what happened in 2020. But it was really meant to provide a toolkit for policymakers at the state and local level on how to encourage entrepreneurship. And something that I feel like I've been working on and shouting into the abyss is that, when you look at the actual data, in economic development especially, the data says if you want job growth, it comes from startups. It doesn't come from the legacy industries. It comes from firms under 5 years old. And so many folks don't know that. There is an attractiveness and a sexiness to business attraction, and a business attraction of 500 jobs. All of that's still good, and all of that is still very important to your economic development strategy, but so much emphasis has been placed on attraction and not growing your own. And I think, I've been a practitioner at the state, at the regional and local level in economic development. I've been a consultant now with the entrepreneurship experience which keeps growing. Like, I feel like I have this comprehensive viewpoint of you need to invest in your secret sauce, and that is the people. So I get pretty fired up when folks are asking in my industry about case studies, like what has worked, what has worked in Des Moines, Iowa. Well, maybe we can apply that here, and all of that's good, but in reality, it worked in Des Moines, Iowa because of the special people in Des Moines, Iowa. The reason why things work here in Indiana is because of the people in Indiana. Right. And so we need to invest in our people, and that includes entrepreneurs. So anyway, Right to Start, back to your point, Right to Start is it's a toolkit. And so I signed up and said, sure, I will gladly represent Indiana. And so we are working with some legislators to introduce and pass some bills. Little things like can certain small percentage of state or local contracts be allocated to firms under 5 years old? Or, starting point would be track the number of young firms that are engaged in government contracts. It could be things like workforce dollars being allocated to training for entrepreneurs. Typically it's to some of the larger companies. It's not really to the young firms and the small firms. And so we're having those conversations, and we did get a bill introduced this session, which is great. It did not get passed, but we're hopeful for next session.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's a huge feat.
Yeah, baby steps. Baby steps, and I think the conversation about entrepreneurship has changed a lot in the last 3 years, and so I'm very hopeful that we're going to continue to make progress, and I think our elected officials are eager to do more.
I think now more than ever, there's so much support for small businesses. I mean, that is so much of like what you're saying. Like, the country is primarily small businesses, truly. And I remember talking to a big brother at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and he works in the logistics and trucking company. Oof, words are hard.
It's Friday.
I know. I thought you said a glass of wine earlier, and I was like, okay, yeah. But he was talking about how he does software for a lot of truckers, and so I was like, oh, like, do you work with like Knight or like just the larger companies? And he's like, honestly, I do work with some of them, but he's like, most of the U.S. like works with independent drivers or like small business trucking companies.
Right.
And so it's wild to me, because he was like, yeah, like you see a lot of those trucks, but like truly, if all the small businesses were taken out, like nobody would have what they needed.
That's right.
And I think it's amazing in like every industry how much people rely on small businesses and maybe don't realize it.
Right.
I think about like the farmers market. We went to the Broad Ripple one this past weekend, and we met somebody who had a booth there, and I mean, it's the farmers market, so like it feels very like small business, but it was somebody, they have a farm down in the Bloomington area, and then he was sharing how like they're the supplier for like several of the meat markets up here, and restaurants, and like some of those restaurants are small and some of them are like chain restaurants that are like high end, and so it's amazing to me that Bloomington, Indiana has a farm where they are the ones providing like the main courses for so many different places and homes.
Right. And yet the structure of how, you know, incentives and economic development works doesn't necessarily favor them.
Right.
So there's, you know, I'm hopeful that things are shifting, and I think people are paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I think it's also two-sided, because it's a lot of people starting businesses who don't know everything they need to know yet. And so I understand, like, putting more funds in places where people need support, but then it's also making sure that, like, once they're there, that they have those opportunities.
Right. 100%
So it's
true.
all connected in such a wild way. But I love everything that you're doing on both sides of it to advocate. And I mean, you're literally helping people get started, providing them with resources, and then you're also like, okay, once you get those resources and those ducks in a row, we're gonna have something lined up. Like,
Right.
That's incredible.
Thanks.
I feel so silly. I'm like just putting all that together. That the whole thing's connected, and you're helping make all the balls roll like in the right direction. Did you realize that, or which one came first for you?
I realized that I could do it more when I started my consulting company. You know, so going from being a practitioner at the, you know, in government to being a consultant, and then that transition from consulting, that in and of itself was frankly very valuable, because I could sit on the other side of the table and be like, I know exactly what pressure points you have, and I understand it. So let me help you, right? Like, I'm your partner. I'm someone that you can trust because I've been in your seat. And then taking that to starting the businesses, and now having several businesses, it's I think it was probably that transition, I guess, into entrepreneurship, where I said, yeah, I see everything now, and so I can make all of these things happen. And it meant that I had a different network, right? So if I were just on the practitioner side, I'd have one network. On the consulting side, I'd have, frankly, the consulting side has offered and allowed a national network, because most of my work has been outside of Indiana, for better or worse, right? Like, so that's there's that. And then on the entrepreneurship side, it's that network of being around people who are not risk adverse and who push me and my husband to think bigger about what next, or, you know, what else can you do? That's a different mindset than working in the government side, right? And so I don't know that, but I think that evolution has been really interesting. Had it been the other way, I don't know how well it could have worked, going from being a business owner to into consulting. I don't know how that would have looked.
Well, I'm excited to continue watching you and seeing how this next journey looks. I mean, there's so many things coming up, and I'm just so excited, and I feel like every time we get coffee or tea or whatever it is, I always leave feeling like lighter and just truly inspired. You always inspire me, and I'm so thankful always for the space that you share. So thank you.
I feel that way too. I mean, you're doing incredible things, and I know you and I have talked a lot about family of origin, and just never feeling like we were able to reach for the stars, right? And it's amazing what you're doing and continue to do, and then also helping others. I mean, your internship programs and all, your mission and your heart of I'm going to take these steps forward, but I'm going to bring these people with me. You're doing it too, so you can talk about me doing it, but that's exactly your game plan, and you're such a role model for everyone.
Thank you.
Like younger and older than you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I surround myself with people I hope to be like someday, so, but being inspired, how do you inspire yourself?
Conversations with people like you, and I mean that sincerely. Like, that's no BS. It's making sure that you are surrounded by people who understand or have been part of your journey, but also frankly push you to think differently. And most of those folks have been women that I've been really lucky enough to know. Nina Hackett, who you met, is a really big one. I mean, she's just a powerhouse and has had a company and done very well for decades. And one quick story about her, I hope she doesn't mind, but you know, when I was thinking about starting Plaka, and I was scared. Like, so when the construction company started, you know, that though it was Nathan and I co-own it was, the risk was less, frankly. It just seemed like the risk was less. I had a full-time job, you know, we were doing fine, and he could take that. Going from one risky business to now you're gonna have two incomes under one house that are, the cash flow is like odd. I was scared to death, and I remember going to her in tears, just saying like, am I making the right decision? I mean, what's gonna happen to my daughter? You know, how am I gonna be a good mom? How am I gonna handle this? And she's like, there's no other way. Like, this is what you want to do, and by doing that makes you a better mother. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So it's being somehow, you know, maybe divine providence, but you know, being able to meet people like her and like you and other mentors that have just been so supportive and have said yes, you know, to even cold calls and random conversations. Women have said yes, and men too. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had some great, you know, my college softball coach. I don't know where I would be without him. But I think so. You know, when you reach out, or when other women reach out and say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee, like, the answer is going to be yes, because it will change a mindset and set a path that you just never can imagine what that could look like.
That's incredible. I love that, and just being willing to, like you said, bring people with you.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
That's awesome. So if our community wants to be an advocate, get involved, or reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do any of those things?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so
Awesome.
LinkedIn's a really good place. I have a website that needs to be updated, plakaassociates.com, but or they can reach out on any social media, and I'd be glad to have a cup of coffee
Or a glass of wine.
or a glass of wine. Definitely.
Headed to sip and share wine soon.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Is she open?
I heard she was having a new space.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
That's what I mean. I think hopefully she's opening soon. I thought it already opened, but I haven't visited her yet, and
I
need to
haven't
do
gone
that.
yet.
Okay, well then our next
Perfect.
wine date.
Thank you so much again for joining and sharing space with me, and thank you for listening in. We will see you next time on Founder to Founder.